This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day. Carefully crafted for you by humans, so meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed podcast. Thank you, Sam, so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Very excited.
Of course. Okay, cool. I'm happy that you're excited. So today we are going to start with a game as per usual. This game is with you in mind. I think it'll be fun and it's really easy. So sometimes I give people really difficult games for just to see them sweat, I guess, but not really. But This one is just opinion, and I hope that it is fun. And you can kind of think of your priorities in your work life, I guess. So that's like, okay, so this game is called This or That. So I'm going to give you some scenarios of I guess client relationships of what you would prioritize one over the other. Does that sound okay?
Okay.
All right. So the first one is so what's your preference? A client who gives you 0 feedback or a client that gives you paragraphs of feedback?
I mean, I hate to say the paragraphs, but at least you're moving in a direction. Like there's some kind of galvanizing thought. So but then I'm opening up myself to any client that sees that gives them the credence to give me paragraphs moving forward. But I guess reluctantly I'd say paragraphs.
I can understand that feeling. I think that when you get no feedback, you're constantly worried that you're doing something wrong because you haven't heard anything. If you have any kind of anxiety or
ambiguity doesn't really help any party involved in my experience. But yeah, that would be me.
Okay, yeah, great answer. Okay, next one. I'm gonna say really bad answer if you don't agree
sure.
with me.
No,
I'm just kidding.
With it. I love it.
Okay, next one. Tight deadline or tight budget?
Tight deadline for sure, because with budget, I think you can, make things happen that wouldn't necessarily be possible with tighter budgets, regardless of timeline. So yeah, I like working with that constraint more than budgets for sure.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think that it is really debatable. I think some people like tight budgets because they have to figure out how to make it work, which is fun for some people, but it's not fun for everyone.
and don't get me wrong, like we definitely work with tight budgets, and you have to squeeze blood from a stone and figure it out. But when you have a little bit more flexibility in budget timelines and things of that nature, you get a little bit more flexible with it. So that's at least how I prefer to work.
No, this is all your ideas. So I'm not disagreeing with you, just playing devil's advocate, I suppose.
Nope, love it.
Okay. One dream client or 5 very easy to deal with clients?
Oh man, that's a really good question. At this point in my career, I would probably say dream client, but as earlier in my advertising experience, having 5 dream client or having 5 easy, well to operate clients to kind of cut your teeth and learn the industries and kind of get your feet under you, I think would have been my answer. But I think now at this point in my career, I'm like, yeah, let's swing for the fences, get some of those fun ones. But no, good question.
Yeah, no, I like that thought process because like earlier on in your career, it might just be it just might be less of a headache to be, but now maybe you want to be more inspired, have some more different circumstances and kind of learn from new experiences, whereas back then it's okay, these are all learning experiences that I'm having.
Exactly. So. Like now that I have that experience under my belt, it's take that to a blue chip client or something.
Exactly. Okay, that makes complete sense. Okay. I'll give you. We're having fun. Okay, I'll give you 2 more. Okay, so last one is weekly check-ins or once a month deep dives.
That's good. I would say weekly check-ins again, from an ambiguity perspective, I think it's just, if it's even if it's a quick hit, once a week, 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is, as opposed to if you have the kind of deep dives at the end of every month, and you have to wait till the next month if anything changes. And,
Mm.
I think having a steady cadence of, hey, make sure everything's good on your end, everything's good on my end, what's changing, and can hopefully eliminate some deep dives, because there's just kind of a steady flow of contact. But yeah, I guess I have both. I have clients that kind of operate in both realms. So it's yeah, I could go either way on that one, but I'd say prefer a steady trickle of information.
No, I think that's really fair. There are definitely clients that have specific preferences for how they're communicated with. And so maybe someone doesn't really want to hear from you every week because they I couldn't be bothered or
Yeah, plenty of
whatever
my
maybe.
clients don't want to hear from me at all, so that's totally fine. Yeah,
Well, that's yeah. So there's like I think yielding to the preference of clients is sometimes good because I mean that, keeps them happy.
for sure.
Okay. Last one. In-person workshops or virtual collaboration.
Is that with client, or I guess it doesn't really matter.
I guess it doesn't really matter, but if you have like a difference based off of whether it's with a client or
Sure.
like with your team, then I guess you can preface that.
We at Agency Squid are full time in agency in office, which from just a creative shop, it's just so much easier to just have the whiteboard and have the whole kind of smattering of ideas just right in front of you. But obviously clients are national, international, and
Mhm.
you kind of work with what you got. But I think just especially in the creative space, it's just so much more beneficial to have immediate reactions and kind of see where their eyes are lingering, from an internal team brainstorm to a client as well. So with everything from a hybrid perspective, and that can of worms from how agencies are operating, but especially in the creative space, I think in person is just it's really hard to beat.
I completely get that. Sometimes I really miss in person. We have a day called Crush Day today, which means we're just on a call all day so that we can like ask each other questions throughout the day, which is honestly kind of fun. I thought I would dread it because I get distracted really
Oh, like the
easily.
full working day you
Full
have it with
working
your
day, we're
camera.
just on camera.
Wow.
Which at first I was like, I feel like I'm in the principal's office doing
Yeah,
this. But at the same time, it's kind of nice to be able to like because normally you have to wait for someone to respond and you don't know if they're available
sure.
or not. So this is slightly different. Obviously, I'm in a call right now, so I'm not in that call. But
Yeah,
when I'm not, I'm in that call, and I think that's kind of fun, and it kind of feels a little similar to being in the office
sure.
because you always have the ability to like bounce an idea off of someone, and I kind of like that little happy medium in a remote space.
Totally. I've said numerous times that the best ideas are usually found at the water cooler, at least in my career, where there's just someone that can't crack that one kind of campaign aspect, or just whatever that kind of deliverable is from a client, but just at the little watering hole in the office or whatever it is, just kind of the quick kind of easy kind of bouncing ideas off each other is usually where I think a lot of the best insights are kind of found. So, but no, I've never heard of that kind of full day meeting aspect. That's interesting. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I was at first I was unsure, and then I did it, and I was like, oh, I guess it's kind of fun. I get to talk to everyone whenever I want, and not
Yeah,
have to
well,
wait
yeah,
for a
you're
Slack
back in the
message
office. Love
response.
it.
Okay, so thank you, one, for entertaining me with this game. All of your opinions are right, and everyone should take everything that Sam says as Bible. All of you. But thank you again for participating, and now we get to learn a little more about you. Other than I guess we got some insights through the game. But tell us a little more about yourself. Maybe introduce yourself a little differently than I would.
Sure.
Tell the world about a little bit about you, how you kind of got to the point that you are today, how you kind of found what you like in your professional life,
Sure.
and what you're kind of doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam Mueller here, account director at Agency Squid. I have been in the advertising space for probably a little over a decade. Got my career started in IT staffing and software sales, and was terrible at both. So thought I'd pivot into an industry that I had some friends in and looked like they were having some fun. So yeah, been primarily in small boutique creative shops, a lot of brand strategy. But yeah, I've been kind of on the account side and the account face of the relationship, and doing project management to actual strategic efforts, and copywriting, and all sorts of little fun things that I get to wear hats from a multitude of different aspects. But I stayed pretty small shops in my career, mainly just to have kind of access to those different kind of workflows and responsibilities, and great visibility to clients, and a ton of different industries. And it's just been pretty fun to pretend to be a subject matter expert on things, and get to deep dive into government clients, and
Mhm.
CPG, and in industries that I didn't have any experience with the day before. So it's been great. I have most recently was a successful boomerang from Minneapolis. I'm from here originally, but just finished up a 5-ish year stint in Massachusetts, and worked with a ton of great Boston agencies. And like all great cliches, I ended up having a great opportunity here at Squid to come back home. So been here a couple of months, and get to utilize all my great Boston learnings, and get back to my roots here in the Midwest. But it's a little bit about me there.
That is lovely. And it's really nice to know that. I mean, it seems like you prefer the small space rather than like a larger conglomerate. Is that right?
Yeah. I've definitely tried to take some swings at my career at maybe going larger, but kind of all of my observations and the opportunities that I kind of had in front of me were very kind of specific industries on or having this specific skill set, or this specific team that you'd be working on. And I've always kind of valued the ability to be agile, and work at some of these smaller places where you do get to wear all sorts of hats, and problem solve creatively every day, and just a little bit more of a um, differentiation compared to just my observations on some of those larger shops where, if you're at a holding company, and you're on the social media team, you do social media. As
That's
opposed
it.
to being here, I get to do a little bit of everything. So
Yeah, no, I love that because I always want to get people's feedback on why they prefer a certain space over another, because a lot of people are very different and prefer a complete, like some people prefer a very streamlined position in which
yeah.
they don't have a new thing to think about every day, and some people love to learn all aspects of a space, and so like they thrive in sometimes a smaller environment where you wear many hats.
The running joke is, you thrive on chaos, and it's I don't really know any better, so it might be a great opportunity, but to go to one of those a little bit larger, more siloed shop. But no, and I've definitely taken swings, and for good or bad, I feel like my resume and my career being in small shops has kind of put me down that path, and it's easier to kind of get those conversations and interviews when that's kind of the world that I exist in, and they know that I've have experience being a little bit more agile. But I think those conversations have always found me a little bit easier than somebody from a larger shop. But no, it's been treating me well so far.
Yeah, I think that it's sometimes you have more of a, and take this with a grain of salt, everyone watching. Like sometimes you have more like the ability to be heard in a smaller space. Whereas like you can have a really good idea, but maybe in a larger space you might have to go through like 10 people. It might completely change, or they might not listen to you in the first place.
No, again, the small shop, the access to clients in the from owners to C-suite to things that you might have a couple rows of separation at some of those larger shops was always super enticing to me. And I don't again I can't speak to any large agencies because how they operate, because I've never really been on that side of things. But I've always really appreciated the being in the room, and whether I have anything valuable to say or not. But always good to kind of be a fly on the wall in that regard.
Yeah, no, I can definitely resonate with that. And having worked for like I guess you keep calling it smaller agencies, but I guess like boutique style agency.
Yep.
Um how would you say, like, how does that influence the relationships you build with clients compared to like a larger agency? I know like you said that you didn't necessarily have experience with that, but do you think that maybe that you have the ability to have like a closer relationship with clients maybe than a larger
Yeah.
agency, like get to know more about them?
I think just from my initial observations, and again, not coming from that perspective, but I mean I have a majority of their cell phone numbers still, so I don't know if that's a thing that's pretty standard and when you get a little bit larger, but again, good or bad, because now they're beholden to me being able to contact
They
them
can call
if I
you
so choose.
whenever.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I again, it's just I think I am prioritize in my career those relationship building moments, and especially when you have a great working relationship with someone, and inevitably, either them or myself find our ways into different positions and boomerang throughout life, and maybe it makes sense in a year or two to our agencies or new companies make sense to connect. But yeah, it's been a relationship game that I've been playing, and that's again seems to be working at the moment. So
Yeah. So when you have those relationships, how do you properly manage them in a way that you have set boundaries when you have
Mhm.
phone numbers like that?
Sure.
Like how do you manage that? How do you make sure that you're not overworking yourself?
Yeah.
Different things like that.
Properly is a loaded adjective there, because I'm always refining, always figuring out how to handle individuals. And again, we try not to, at least in my most recent agencies, have a one size fits all for any of these clients, because everybody operates differently, and to the point of the weekly check in or the big kind of month end all, just how these kind of relationships get established, and are these people that are interested in going to a client happy hour every once in a while, or are they like
Mhm.
state, and we keep things from 9 to 5 and leave it at that. But no, to the point about burnout, that's always a very very large topic in the advertising industry, and
Mhm.
as well. But yeah, there's a fine line of being accessible off hours, and in unless we don't have the launch codes really for any of our responsibilities or things that we're delivering to our clients. So there's the sense of, oh, you need this real quick, and it's after hours, of course, like you want to be a good partner, but there's also the, hey, let's respect both of our times here, and life's outside of work, and if it needs first thing in the morning, of course. But yeah, it's Squid has been really good at kind of establishing those things, because we look at our careers in this agency and this industry, and can do our best to kind of prevent burnout. And if we need to stay a little bit after 5, it's unless we really really need to, like we really do try to kind of maintain that 5 o'clock. Hey, everybody's got life after outside of this, and we want you to stick around here as long as possible, and grow with the agency, and that doesn't really benefit anybody if you're working, burning midnight oil for the first 6 months that you start here, and then afterwards you're like, this was a horrible experience, and I'm stressed, and I want to get out of here. So yeah, it's again, it's a fine line, and it's constantly kind of adjusting. But yeah, you always want to be the best partner you can be. But I think setting those limitations and expectations with clients up front, being like, hey, you got me when you got me, but if it's not a 911, let's let's put a pin in it until tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I think that for where your agency is concerned, I think that sometimes it starts with that environment too, of like what kind of systems they have set up for people that join or
Right.
that are a part of the agency, and kind of boundaries that they have for their staff. I think that there's definitely agencies that have that an expectation of you working overtime or
Sure.
whatever it may be, um, and that may not be for everyone or most people.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, I think that it's really great that it seems like you feel supported too, which is really, really great, because I think that kind of is what it starts with, is having an environment where you feel comfortable to be able to actually leave when you're supposed to leave.
Totally. And I that's not by any means to disparage any previous agencies or anything along those
Yeah, yeah, of
lines.
course.
because there's always been, different expectations and different opportunities that arise, and you gotta, gauge opportunities and ways that these relationships can kind of get managed and maintained. So yeah, no, I've been at kind of both ends of the spectrum over the career, and it's constantly adjusting as a kind of industry wide conversation as well, which I feel like is good that it's happening a lot more. But yeah, I think acknowledging burnout for what it is, and what kind of steps we can take from an industry perspective to kind of mitigate some of those things is always a good conversation to be having.
Yeah, and I think agencies have almost a reputation of being poor with that sometimes, which is a little sad. I think it's just because it's supposed to be such a different environment, or supposedly from like corporations, in the
Mhm.
way that, um, it's supposed to be a lot of people that are, really, what's the word I'm looking for? Scrappy.
Sure.
Um, and so, like, the expectation sometimes is to, work harder, work longer kind of thing. Whereas corporations, some
Yeah.
of them are not regulated in that way, but a lot of them are regulated in the way of like, they don't want to be sued if you're working too long.
Sure.
But agencies sometimes have this expectation, maybe if it's not said necessarily. But so I love to ask this just because it's nice to know, how different ones function.
Yeah. And specifically from the creative perspective, it's kind of an intangible good to a certain extent. The client doesn't really have a lot of insight into, how many hours you were banging your head against a wall until you were able to, crack that concept or what have you. But yeah, I think also maybe a little bit more in previous generations. I think we're getting better as a
I
whole.
agree.
The kind of expectation that, agencies are hard to get into. It's a tough industry, but once you're in, it's one of those like, hey, you should be happy and lucky, and that you made it in, and you should be willing to bend over backwards and to earn your spot here and to kind of maintain that career. But I think people are moving away from that a little bit, and kind of respecting that this is a tough industry, and there's always going to be stress involved, and there's always going to be turnover, obviously, and unfortunately. But I think that the conversation is at least happening a little more readily, and I think that's is only a good thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. And so that's why I like to have these conversations. So that's it's talked about a bit more.
Yeah, love it.
But so, well, now switching gears from that conversation. So being able to work at a boutique agency specifically, it seems like you, as we talked about a little bit and touched on a little bit earlier, like you're able to kind of foster maybe stronger or closer relationships with clients. Is there ever a time where you've seen like a huge client transformation that you can kind of talk about like over time, of like how you've been able to see them grow? Obviously, I understand like confidentiality, you might not be able
Sure.
to talk about the specific brand, but like maybe you can talk to just like that concept and how you've been able to see
Sure.
that in your experience.
I think a big one is kind of the, working with a client that might not have too much agency experience, either coming from that space or interacting with agency partners in the past. And so there's always a learning curve and a onboarding process with anybody that you work with. But those conversations, and when you're working with someone that's never had to kind of work with external partners,
Mm-hmm.
is fun, and to the point of educating and setting the right boundaries and parameters up front,
Mm-hmm.
is really great. But no, I've done that numerous times in my career where you're working with someone that has a kind of hard time quantifying and understanding what exactly creative agencies do and are capable of. And I'm like, oh well, we have our internal team that is able to execute on those things. Why are we working with these people?
Mm-hmm.
So kind of giving them an education on, well, we provide this. This is what your team handles. This is how we work together, and this is what they accomplish, and we assist with, and establishing that. But yeah, I from a personal standpoint, and how to kind of bring them along that process. It's always a fun one, but yeah, that the growth aspect of that question is interesting because it's more of just, I think, humanizing myself as a person to, I hate the colloquial, oh well, we're not coworkers or clients, we're family, like any of that stuff. But no, it is just like humanizing, and knowing
Yeah.
when you're asking someone, it's not a short order cook. It's a, hey, we're collaborators here, we're going to work together, and we're gonna accomplish what you need. But yeah, it's we work in tandem, not necessarily you know uh, order and command kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I really like specifically what you mentioned about the education aspect of it, because like a client relationship is, I think a lot of people see that it's mostly on the client side to educate the agency or whoever they're directly talking to,
Mhm.
the account manager, whatever it may be, um about their industry,
Sure.
and that obviously is part of it normally, unless like they're very niche in their focus, and
Yeah.
so they kind of know, like they're also experts of it.
To that point, there's always an education on the agency creative side, because we have done, an agency as a whole, at Squid currently is just had their 10th anniversary, and they've been working in alcohol for forever. Thank you. I have like a handful of months, but even if we've done hundreds of wine, independent brands, put into market, but it's still an education every time that we work with a new wine brand, because it's a new audience segment. It's a new, um, you know, aspect of innovation that hasn't been done, or they found a niche that they want to target. And from our perspective, we're always getting educated, no matter how much experience we have in that space. And it might allow us to ask some different or some deeper questions. But yeah, from educating on agency process to educating us on industry trends, and what actually that the company that we're hoping to work with is trying to accomplish, is the other end of the education standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. I appreciate you mentioning both sides, because yeah, like I agree that a lot of people only consider the client education or the
Sure.
clients educating the agency, but a lot of times they don't realize the agency needs to educate the client almost equally about
Yeah.
like the processes that they do, like what they're doing. And I think sometimes when you do that improperly, that's when a relationship can go sour or like not be the best of its ability, because you're not like properly communicating with them about what you're doing, or they think that even if you are working on consistently on whatever their campaign is or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
that they don't have an understanding of what you're doing, so they think you're not doing anything, or like whatever it may be. There's so much education on both
Totally.
sides.
Totally. Quantifying creativity is something I still come to grips with on occasion, because, especially in like the, hourly basis and billing and all those, super fun conversations. But, if you crack it in the first hour, it's because of the, years and years of experience that you've been working with. But,
Hmm.
again, if it takes, longer than you intended, it's you're still having those kind of, the job needs to get doing, no matter how long it takes, or how short it takes. So it's yeah, that's a creativity is fairy dust to me. I don't understand it, and that's why I work with creatives, because I am not.
I get it. I'm the same way. That is, yeah, it is a very difficult thing to grapple with, because a lot of people think that something should happen in a certain amount of time and don't really understand the creative process or the marketing process sometimes, with a lot of expectations surrounding that. A lot of people think that certain goals need to be met in a certain amount of time, but it's not
Mhm.
really realistic. And I think that's also like a difficult thing. And that's where education comes into, of like creating realistic expectations for
Mhm.
clients as well, because a lot of times relationships can also go sour or not go right because of like not clearly communicating what's possible.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. Everybody's juggling jugglers constantly, and their responsibilities are changing at a moment's notice. And the higher up the totem pole or layer cake, the responsibilities that are kind of being distilled to all these team members that are changing constantly. You're just adjusting as needed. But it's yeah, I'm just rambling to a certain extent. But
Oh yeah.
the I don't even know where I'm going with that one. That what was that, the brain fart? Is that what we were talking about earlier? That's
That's
the
the
one.
brain fart. That's the
Okay.
brain
I
fart.
knew it was good for one at least. So yeah, that'll There you go.
No, don't even worry. Okay, I have another question for you anyway. Okay, so like speaking about what you mentioned slightly earlier, like then how do you balance the tension between creative and like real world constraints like budgets, timelines, like
Mm,
requirements, like while
yeah.
still delivering something that resonates?
No, phenomenal question. I mean, anybody that has 100% solid confirmed answer on that, I'd love to meet them and have that understanding because, I mean, I've already had that kind of debate twice today. So it's always a thing of, you want to put forth the best effort and the best amount of creativity for whatever opportunity is presented in front of you. But yeah, there's numerous clients that are like, hey, right now we really need this. We don't really have the budgets that we anticipate you expecting, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully this opens up doors to work together for next year and some further conversations along those lines. But no, it's a constant conversation on what is a good investment for the agency. Does this turn into an opportunity for not only eyeballs but to opening up doors for further opportunities as well. But no, it's you again always want to over index towards being a good partner and finding great opportunities that work for the client, obviously, but then also benefit us from a PR perspective or
Yeah.
something that we want to put on the reel. But no, I mean I have that internal conflict on a near hourly basis, so it happens quite a lot.
I think that that is a good thing. I think that means you're doing your job correctly. I think that there's not a cure all for
Sure.
figuring that out for
If there
sure.
is, yeah, I'd at least love to hear it out for sure. But I think, yeah, it's never one size fits all.
Yeah, of course. And that just like is acknowledging that clients are very different when it comes to working and the constraints that you're given. Those are always going to be completely different as well. And I mean, you can always silo that a little bit by, making sure that you pick clients that fit your brand better. But at the same time, it's still going to differ from client to client about what you need to execute.
Absolutely.
So, to round out our podcast, I like to ask people future looking kind of questions. So,
Okay.
what I want to know is if you. Okay, wait, actually, I might have two questions. Okay, one,
Sure.
what if you could rebrand any and I know you're on the account executive side, so this is like slightly different, but you
Sure.
work with brands every day, so this is still perspective. If you could rebrand any brand, like I guess a popular brand,
Sure.
what would you do? Because I'm sure everyone in agency world thinks about this at least once.
Sure. At risk of being mysterious, just before this call, I kind of had one of those conversations. So in I don't we I not to lead the witness or foreshadow anything, but we just had a really good conversation with something I never really thought was ever I could cross paths with that I'm pretty excited about. But I don't know if there's any that I want to like specifically rebrand because I feel like
Mhm.
that might be viewed as like disrespectful as this I can do better, our team can do better. But there's definitely brands that I've always dreamed of taking a swing at for sure.
Mhm.
More of just from the ability to work with them or love the product or love the service. But um, I mean, we being in the alcohol space, it is pretty fun, and working from heritage wine brands to 9% RTD, a convenience store bottle. There's just a whole realm of industries in between that. But no, my boss early in his career was on the team that worked on getting White Claw into market, and we that has being having a brand like that kind of shake up the industry as much as it did is something that I'm definitely would love to have come across my desk one day. But from a specific brand level, I mean. I mean, I'm a little bit leaning into the whiskey world, just as a personal flavor guy. So I won't put anybody on blast, but having a whiskey brand in house would be pretty amazing.
That sounds really awesome. No, I think that I mean, you should know what can make you excited so that
Sure.
you can
Hey,
look
I'm
for
a
it in the
subject
future.
matter expert. I'd like to pretend I am. Playing on television. Yeah.
No, that's okay. Okay, and then my follow-up question is, what are you excited about for the next year or so? I would give a
Mm.
longer parameter, but some people aren't really thinking that far ahead,
Sure.
and that's okay. I mean,
No, we Squid is having some really fun traction right now. We're getting invited to a lot of great conversations and meeting a lot of great potential clients, and looking like next year is kind of going to be off to a hot start, which we're immensely excited about. But no, there's just some amazing growth opportunities, for the agency, within the agency, and have a nice head of steam with us that I'm really excited to take advantage of next year. But we're getting involved in some really interesting kind of agency collectives and groups that we can kind of rely on each other and kind of pull in from different media experts or production partners or things like
mhm.
that. So we have those relationships and those organizations are a little bit early days, but we're kind of developing all these additional arms within Squid, or tentacles. Like that's terrible. We need to cut that. That's just so
No, we're keeping that in.
um, and yeah, so we're just getting some really interesting capabilities and building out our bench a little bit that I think we're definitely going to need with some a nice head of steam we have going into 2026. So long-winded answer. Just I'm just really excited about maintaining and building upon that momentum.
Yay! Okay, well, that is really exciting, and I'm really excited for everything that's going on with Squid and for you to be excited about in the future.
Oh, thank you very much. No, this is a very lovely conversation. This is my first interview podcast, whatever you want to call it. So
We did it!
thank you. Yeah, this was fun. This was a blast.
Thank you, Sam, so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. This was very fun, so I'm happy. You seem like a natural, so this went really well. And
No,
thank you so much
very
for
very
joining me.
lovely and thoughtful questions. Really enjoyed the chat. Thanks so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We'd be nothing without you. Please check out Sam in the description, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.